Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Veramed Stories podcast. I am your host, Himesh Chauhan. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the Veramed EAP. So joining me this week is Annie. Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Himesh.
Right, let's get into it. So what does EAP stand for?
So EAP stands for the Employee Assistance Programme.
Right, okay. And what does that sort of entail?
Yeah, so basically it's a employee benefit that Veramed offers, and it's confidential, and it's basically a 24-hour phone line that you can call up if you need help with various different things, whether they're work or home related. There's also other facilities like a web, lots of different types of information on the web pages, webinars and videos and fact sheets and things like that, and also an app that you can get as well. But the key part of it is the 24-hour helpline that you can call at any point in complete confidence.
Excellent. And who is this available to?
So it's available to all of the employees. We have currently, because we're global now, obviously, we have an EAP in the UK. We also have one to support our Ukraine colleagues and also our US colleagues. We currently don't have one set up in Germany or Spain, but it's something that we're working on at the moment and looking to add as a benefit when we enhance their benefit packages as we expand in those regions. And the other thing to note is it's not just available for the employee themselves. So actually an employee's partner or spouse and also any dependents over the age of 16 are able to use it as well. So even if someone, therefore, in your family or in your home life needs some support, they can actually also use it.
Excellent. And so you said it's a 24-hour helpline. So who's on the other side of the line?
That's a good question. So they have trained counsellors and trained advisors that answer the helpline. And initially, you'd be kind of triaged to see whether you're phoning up, whether it's appropriate to speak to a counsellor or whether it's appropriate to speak to an advisor. So, for example, you might be phoning for some legal advice to do with a rental agreement, or you might want some help with a relationship issue or stress or anxiety at work or different things like that. So they'll kind of assess whether you need to speak to a counsellor initially or an advisor and then follow it through from there. If you do go down the counsellor route and that's what you're phoning about, then they actually offer full comprehensive formal counselling through the EAP as well. So it's not just that initial chat. You can then set up a series of sessions, which might be on the phone or might be face-to-face or might be video, to follow up from that if that's what kind of the route that's decided to take. And also they'll obviously signpost you to lots of other things as well.
I see. So it's handled by a external company. So if you do have anything that's, like you say, confidential, it is fully confidential. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, completely. So it's nothing to do with Veramed as such. Veramed just pay for the service in order to offer it as a benefit to the employees to kind of support our employee wellbeing and duty of care to the employees. But when you phone, it's a complete independent person, and it's run by the UK one is run by a company called Health Assured. So they're kind of the background of it, and they offer it as a service to lots of different employees around the country, and also, as I said, the other ones in other parts of the world. And the only reason they would ever break confidentiality is if there was some serious risk, the same as with speaking to any sort of medical professional, if there was a serious risk to yourself or to someone else. But other than that, it's completely confidential, and it's certainly not discussed back with the employer at all.
Yeah, excellent. Because we do have a few other initiatives within Veramed that are handled with employees, like the mental health first aid champions, for example. Yeah. They're internal employees. So it's nice to have like multiple places you can reach out to depending on how you're feeling and what your issue is, whether it's health related, like I said, with rent and things like that, especially in London, like the rent and people struggling to find places to live and things like that, or dodgy landlords or however. So no, it's really good.
Completely. So you can get things like financial advice and legal advice on things like that, as well as that sort of emotional support and that sort of counselling side. So they do offer lots of different things. And as you said, at Veramed, we have a few different routes that somebody can take if they are having difficulties in one way or another. You might approach your line manager initially, you might go to HR. If you look on our internal web pages on the intranet, there's different options there. As you said, we have the mental health first aiders set up, and they have their own email address that you can reach out to as well. And then, we've got things like this external service, which is then completely separate from Veramed. and is just something that we offer for anyone to use if they need to.
Excellent. And for employees or future employees listening, how was the best way of accessing the service?
Yeah, so it's a 24-hour telephone line, and you can find out what that phone number is by looking on the internal intranet. We also give out a little leaflet to all of our new starters, which has a pop-out card that you can keep in your wallet if you have a wallet these days, or in the back of your phone, which has the phone number on it as well. And also, even if you were just to Google it, you would come up with it, and then you would be able to access it that way. And as I said, there is an actual app. So if it is something that you feel you might use, or you know, the kind of thing that you do use, you find really helpful, and you think you might use again for something, you can have the app on your phone, or you can just go straight to the website. So that's where you would find it.
Okay. And when you initially call the service, is there a reference number or anything like that you need to give, or is it just your name and company and they'll take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. They would just ask for your name and take a couple of details, so in case they were needing to phone you back, for example, if you got cut off. And then, yeah, you would just need to say the name of the company in order to access the program. The other thing I was going to mention is, yes, it's across the board for all employees, but for example, for line managers in particular, it's also an option for them to contact if they're having a difficulty with something with an employee, or even like for the HR team. So you can kind of get support for whatever you are in the business. So for example, you know, if there's some worrying harassment or conflict or stress, or you just want advice on team building or those kind of things, you can actually also reach out to them and get that kind of additional info, as well as the sort of basic ones you'd think of, like, I'm feeling stressed and anxious, or I need this legal help with this document that I don't know what to deal with. So actually they offer a lot of different things. It's worth having a look, I think, as an employee of Veramed, at the page, and just so that you know what is out there and what you can find out if you need to. And it kind of, in my mind, replaces a little bit like the Citizens Advice Bureau used to do, where if you weren't sure about something, you didn't really have someone to ask about it, you can go there and they can just be a starting point, because as I said, they can signpost you to other relevant things as well.
Yeah, I see. I was just about to say, it sounds very similar to the Citizens Advice Bureau. And it was a very good point that you made with the line managers. That's not something I would have thought of. But it's nice to have an external person, a bit of advice, and just a third party just to let you know, because just because you're a line manager doesn't necessarily mean you're a trained professional in some of these issues. So
absolutely, yeah, you can't have all the answers. And, you know, your main thing is to help and to signpost on, but you might actually need some support yourself in doing that or following that. So it's yeah, worth remembering that option is there for you as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a very well-rounded service. And the other question was, I assume it's pretty much the same. If you are a spouse or dependent of an employee at Veramed, when they call up, do they have to mention the employee's name and details of the company?
They wouldn't need to give the employee's name. I think they would just be stating that they're phoning as part of Veramed, in effect, because that's who it's set up for. And so because it's for the employee and their spouse, they, for example, don't have a list of names of people from Veramed. It's very much just on trust that you're phoning and saying that you're phoning in connection with that company, and that's how they would then help you. But ultimately, they're there to help people. There's not going to be red tape to prevent you talking to someone, especially if it's, you know, you've reached quite a critical stage and you feel you just got to reach out and speak to someone and you don't know where else to go. They're certainly professionals, and they would look to help you in whatever way they can. So I think simply phoning up, starting to give the information as to why you're phoning, as I said, so that they can direct you to the right person. Because I think because these lines are manned 24/7, it could be chance whether your phone call is answered by the counselling side or by the more of the advisory side. But then they would just switch you over if you're more one way than the other. And I think, yeah, you just need to say that it's in connection with the Veramed, and then they would be happy to help.
Fantastic. So if someone wants to use the service, is there like an excess you have to pay or any sort of cost involved?
No, they would be totally free for the employee. So Veramed pays the subscription on behalf of the company for all employees to have access to it. And from the employee's point of view, it doesn't appear anywhere on a P11D. There's no excess to pay. There's no cost to receive the advice, and even to receive the structured counselling that I talked about. It's a totally free service to the individual phoning up.
All right, fantastic. Well, Annie, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast to just give more information about this EAP service, which sounds excellent. It seems to cover a broad range of things, and the fact that it's free and our dependents and spouses and everybody can use it, I think will be a massive benefit to all employees. So just a reminder for our employees, where can they find all this information?
Yeah, so you'll find everything about the EAP, the Employee Assistance Programme, on the internal intranet pages. And also you may still have your little card, or you probably will if you're a relatively new employee to Veramed, that was given out on the leaflet when you first joined. That information is all on the intranet though, so you can find it there. You could also, if you were in a situation where you didn't have access to that, you could just Google Health Assured EAP and you would find the number there.
Brilliant. Okay, Annie, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. And thank you all very much for listening. If you'd like to be notified for any future episodes, please subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, and whichever podcast platform you're using. If you'd like to know more about Veramed, please visit our website at veramed.co.uk, or you can find us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about Veramed, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at We Are Veramed. Thank you all very much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.